Hey, Kristi, how are you?
I'm so good. How are you?
I'm great. So, for the listener's sake, Kristi and I were talking before we started recording, and this is our first ever podcast. So, I tried to scare her by saying that we had some sort of hazing ritual kind of a thing for newbies, but I then kind of ran out of funny things to say. We don't have a hazing ritual, but I do
Bummer.
need to think of one. I think the listeners might enjoy that, some
Yeah,
sort of weird, awkward discomfort kind of thing.
I
But
love it.
I don't know, maybe not. So maybe next time. You're an Arizona hairdresser and educator who focuses on creative color and extensions. Your brand is Drop Dead Kristi with an I. Your salon is Drop Dead Studio. Your extension line that you started is Drop Dead Extensions, and you educate under the brand Drop Dead Education. And so, if the listeners don't know me yet, actually, I should say this. For those listeners who listen all the time, you know that I'm going to talk about branding today because I think you, Kristi, have done a great
hmm
job of branding yourself. But before we get into that, why don't you tell us about where you're from originally and how you got into the hair industry?
Yeah, I'm from Arizona, born and raised. Very few people here can say that. It's a transplant state for sure. But I was
Like
actually born and
California,
raised.
yep.
Yeah, exactly. I was actually born and raised here. I call Queen Creek, Arizona home. So if anybody knows what that is, it used to be a small farm town. Now it's very suburbs and everybody wants to live there.
It's been
But I've,
exploding. It's in the
yeah,
southeast of the city.
yes, it is. But I'm from there. That's what I call home. My teenage years were spent there, and then we actually live there now. I did not grow up wanting to do hair. I never was very girly growing up. I was not the girl that knew how to do prom hair or was doing that for my friends. Like I feel like a lot of people's story is. But I was the only girl in my high school with colored hair. So when it was time to go to college, I was all set. I was going to go to a four-year
Hold on, hold
university.
on, hold on, hold
Yeah.
on. Why were you the only one at your high school who had colored hair? Why did you color your hair?
Oh, I loved self-expression through hair and fashion, and I kind of changed my look every year of high school. I looked different. People that knew me in high school, I went through a phase where I wore headbands every day. Like, I just loved expressing myself through my hair. And one of my friends had gone to beauty school while in high school, so she would I was her guinea pig, and she'd throw black lowlights in my blonde hair and pink in the underneath and purple streaks, and we had a lot of fun.
So are you naturally a blonde?
Naturally blonde, yes. Deceiving by my
Okay.
black hair now, but the roots are there.
Yeah, the roots are there, and I see some pieces
hmm
of color in the back.
hmm
Okay, so you self-expression, and did you change your look with your clothes pretty often too?
Oh, all the time. One year I was very scene kid, and one year I was very country and cowboy boots, and then the next year it was very like hippie boho style. Just changed all the time.
That's super cool. And did that scare your parents? Like our daughter is trying to find herself or something? I don't know, something that a parent would say.
My parents were always pretty supportive. My dad doesn't get it to this day. He still doesn't fully get me and the tattoos and everything, but they're supportive. They're good about it.
Okay, okay. So keep going.
Yeah, so I didn't grow up wanting to be a hairstylist. I was all set to go to a four-year university, and about a month before I was supposed to graduate high school, I started getting real with myself. Like many people, I grew up with depression and anxiety. I was actually diagnosed at 12. So my parents
Mm.
were getting a little nervous about me moving away to college. I was getting nervous about moving away to college. So I wanted to kind of think of something that I could stay home for and spend a year kind of settling into myself before trying college. And like I said, I was the only girl in my high school with colored hair, so I always had a passion for that. I didn't know anything about it, but I had a passion for it. So that day we started signing me up for beauty schools. I toured them and started like not even a month after I graduated high school and completely fell in love.
Wow. Completely fell in love right from the beginning at beauty school.
I mean, beauty school is hard. Like there were plenty of days where I wanted to quit and questioned it and got scared and decided I was never going to do color ever again. And obviously that didn't happen. But I just powered through, and I really loved styling in beauty school and kind of found a passion with that and started doing photo shoots while I was in school and getting creative that way.
So it sounds like you found your zone, and it sounds like you were working hard and everything, but do you feel like you were naturally good at it pretty much from
No,
the beginning?
no, no, I feel like it took me a lot of work. I was always very creative, so having fun with the color and different placements and kind of custom mixing direct dyes, I feel like I understood. But blow drying, even just being able to shampoo out all the color, like that was the hardest part of beauty school for me, with some of those more simple things.
Very interesting. Okay, so but it sounds like you weren't really doubting your choice of going there. It sounds like you were very, very happy, and you
Yeah.
kind of realized that you wanted to be in this industry.
Yeah, I definitely, through all the struggles in beauty school, knew that this industry was where I was meant to be. It was just the different avenues in the industry that I tried to find my place in.
Okay, so I'm listening to you telling the story, and I see that you've been rather successful in a few different aspects of the industry. And how did that happen? I mean, you know, you had self-doubt, it sounds like,
Yeah.
going in there. And then fast forward to where you are now, it doesn't seem like you have any self-doubt.
Yeah.
So so connect those dots for me. How did that happen?
I got married really young. I got married at 20, 11 days after I turned 20, actually. So my husband
Wow,
is my business partner, my best friend. We do kind of everything together.
that's awesome.
Um, yeah, so he gave me a lot of belief in myself, and kind of through us growing up together so young, and he's also an entrepreneur, also was kind of we were in the same stage of life through all times of it. Um, Seeing how hard he worked for his business kind of inspired me to work hard for my business.
What kind
And
of
while
business was he in?
he was a photographer, so now he
Okay,
runs Drop Dead with me, both the salon and the extension company. But
got
he
it.
was a photographer and graphic designer. His
Okay,
fan, his
so
yeah.
yeah, similarly creative and yeah, probably freelancing early on, so he
hmm
understood that element of it. Okay, that's really cool.
Yeah, so it just kind of inspired me to like work on my business, and you can't work on your business if you yourself aren't whole. So I started really focusing on myself the last few years and healing the parts of me that needed to be healed, and I don't know, doing a lot of introspection. Sort
That's right,
Yep,
introspection, sure. And
introspection.
do you mind telling us more about
Yeah.
that? Like, how did you maybe recognize the parts of you that needed healing, and then how did you go about healing?
Um, let's see. The truth of it is, which I've never done a podcast, but I've never really talked about this publicly, is from roughly age 12 to 24, I cried almost every single day.
Hmm.
I didn't know true happiness, and I couldn't figure out why I wasn't happy. So I started just focusing on the things that did make me happy, and I started expressing a lot of gratitude. That's huge in our Drop Dead ecosystem. We start every meeting, every salon meeting, and I end every single day with listing out what I'm grateful for. And I feel like
Hmm.
when you do that, it shows you how much you have to be grateful for. And then the universe just gives you even more after that. So that was one of the main things that I did.
100%. And most people don't do that, do they? Most
No,
people, they find drugs and alcohol or whatever else that's not so great for them. Um,
exactly.
but but gratitude. I mean, how did you learn that? Did you just was it clear to you that that was a good way of self healing?
Yeah, there's a quote that I want to say is by Tony Robbins, that where gratitude exists, fear cannot. And so hearing that, as a very anxious person, I just started telling my husband every night. And anytime that one of us maybe gets in a rut, we're just like, all right, what are three things you're grateful for? And in the beginning, finding three things was really hard. Now I keep a list in my phone actually of that I add to every single day of what I'm grateful for
Hmm.
that day. And so if I ever feel like I don't know what to say, I can just kind of refer back to that, and I have a long laundry list of things to be grateful for.
So that's amazing. And it sounds like your husband, I'm curious, you got married at 20. How long did you know your husband before that?
We met when I was like freshly in beauty school, freshly out of high school. I was 18. And we were friends for a while first. And then once we started dating, it was very like, you know what, I think you're my person and I think we're going to do this, which I probably wouldn't recommend because I can tell you I am not the person he married at all. But
Oh,
luckily for
because
us,
you've
we grew
changed
up together.
positively, I think. Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes. But we've grown up together, which is really cool.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, that's extremely important. And it sounds like he's been very supportive of all of your efforts. It sounds like, whether it's the self-healing or the businesses and all of those things. And business is really hard, especially like an independent sort of thing. You're trying to start let's say an extension line. There's not a whole lot of ready-made assistance out there for you to go read at how to start an extension company. But having a partner like that, it sounds like it's really, really working out for you, which is just awesome. I am grateful that you have a great partner and all that. And I'm grateful that you found gratitude and you've been using it to kind of improve yourself. That's amazing.
Thank you.
I think I could probably do that better myself, the whole gratitude thing. And I know that how important it is. I know how powerful it is. And I do it. But as I'm listening to you talk about it, you're much more intentional about it and consistent with it on a daily basis. And, I could absolutely be better at that. And I'm sure the listeners, as they're listening to me kind of ramble on about this, they're probably thinking to themselves, yeah, I need to get a little bit better at it too. So anyway, you see, you're inspiring already. You've never done a podcast and you're just like a fury of inspiration for everybody.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so you're married, you have a cosmetology license, and when you got out of beauty school, did you have an idea of where you wanted to focus your time and efforts? Was it color and extensions right out of the gate, or did you have to kind of evolve there?
It's a little bit of both. It was both right out the gate and I had to evolve. When I was in beauty school, I started focusing on creative color because that's what kind of brought me there in the first place. My friend worked for a local extension company, so she had gotten me kind of signed up with them. And before that time, the awkward time between graduating beauty school and being licensed, I actually worked in their teeny little salon suite. It was like 70 square feet probably in a salon studio place here. That's
really
packaging
small.
their orders. Yeah, it was really small.
Got it.
Yeah,
It was like a storage area.
Yes. And it was packaging their orders and people could come swing by to pick up and they'd basically just stand in the doorway and I'd hand it to them.
Okay.
So I started doing extensions early on and I also did a lot of styling back then, which has kind of fallen off as I've gone in my career, but that was my beginning stage.
Okay, and then what?
I assisted for a year. I focused on creative color and extensions. I was doing a lot of tape-in extensions at the time. And then that extension company that I had worked so closely with opened up a little salon suite that actually could fit a shampoo bowl and chairs and everything. Okay. And they reached out to me and said, hey, we have a spot open if you want to come. So I went to work there and started doing extensions with them. I started doing the sewn-in extensions, the beaded rows, and fell in love with it. As a creative artist, like it opened up so many doors for my creativity. Clients, like my hair right now, is black. I use permanent black color on it. But I have tape-ins in that are one of our copper colors and our platinum color to give me kind of that calico trendy hair without actually having to color my hair. So it kind of opened up all of these doors for me and I just fell in love with it and kind of dove headfirst into that.
So pretty early on, I mean, you're very young. So you have, I mean, I've talked to hairdressers, guests on the show who are, twice your age, et cetera. And, they've had ebbs and flows in their career where they've had kind of extreme focusing in this area, extreme focusing on that area. But it sounds like pretty quickly you went into extensions. It sounds like you had probably a pretty good mentor, if not, simply a company that taught you how to do it well. And
Hmm.
then how did you get clients? Did the company bring you clients for the extensions, or were you marketing yourself already?
Yeah, I've been booth rental since day one, which I probably wouldn't recommend. It's a hard way to build your books, but that's how I did it. I was never handed any clients. I started posting on Instagram. One of my clients was in a sorority at Arizona State University. And so I said, hey, if you send your sorority sisters to me, I'll give you all 15% off. And to this day, 7, 8 years later, I still do most of that graduating class hair.
From one client comes many.
Mm-hmm,
Word of
exactly.
mouth is still number one.
Yes,
Is
exactly.
social media is a little bit like word of mouth, of course, on steroids, but it's not quite as good as actually knowing somebody and all of that. That's a lot higher quality kind of version of that. Okay, so
Right.
and you've probably been like your native social media because you're young
Mm-hmm.
and you're probably good at it. You're good at creating a look for yourself. When did you start the Drop Dead brand?
So we started working on our extension company back in roughly 2018. So I was in my private studio. I had left that extension company I was with, and was trying to find other companies to work with, and even just have hair to supply for my clients. And I was seeing that most companies fell short. So whether the price point was really high, the hair was not good quality, or I tried to do creative color on it, and all of a sudden the extensions would ball up and not work anymore. So I had high demands for my hair, and I just wasn't finding them. My husband actually has a degree in manufacturing. That's what he went to school for. He went to school
Ooh,
in
score,
LA. Yes, he went to
score
school in
you.
LA. No, literally. I'm like, I don't know how other people do it because I have him and his twin does video and the website, and my husband does the manufacturing and the photos, and then I do the hair. And I don't know how people do it
Like
without the dream team like that.
the dream trio. So when you say twin,
Yeah.
are you literally talking about his like biological twin, or is that his
Yes.
alter ego?
No, that is his biological twin.
Oh
So
my
we are very
God,
much
that's
a family
amazing.
business.
So
Yeah.
you had
So
planned this out years before when you were
yes.
18. You're like, this guy is going to be good for my career because there's not just one of him, there's two of him. He's studying manufacturing, and one day
Yep.
I may want to manufacture something.
Basically. Yeah. So in 2018, he was like, well, that's what I know. I'm manufacturing. We always knew that one day we would have some company of some sort. And so we started just finding hair so I could service my clients. And after a few years of that, 2020 hit. Him and his twin were a wedding photographer and videography duo. I was in a private studio, and we had to shut down, as we all know, and they had to refund all of the deposits for the weddings. And we were like, okay,
Hmm.
well, we don't want to be in this situation again. What are we going to do? So all three of us kind of decided to dive headfirst into those extensions I'd been using since 2018 and fully turn it into a company and fill in the gaps that the industry had, the things that we saw were missing.
Okay, so super cool, very inspirational story. I love like the progression of all of it. Okay, so where did the Drop Dead come from? I know that we're kind of right on the cusp of Kristi branding herself. Where
Yes.
did that? When did I imagine it started right then when you decided to start this extensions company. You're like, what do we call it? And so you always kind of have this this kind of a dramatic aesthetic, and you wanted to really lean into that.
Yeah, my aesthetic has changed over the years, but I've always had creative color. I'm decently heavily tattooed, like this whole arm's blacked out. So, we definitely don't fit the normal extension company box. And we kind of wanted to make that known from the get-go is we're different and we stand out and we had a little bit more of a macabre name. We're for kind of the weirdos and the misfits of the extension industry. So it's kind
Hmm.
of a play on Drop Dead Gorgeous, which is a little tacky. So we just dropped the
Right.
gorgeous and it's just Drop Dead.
Right. That's really funny. Okay, super fun. So you're drop dead everything now.
Yep.
And I know you educate, you go to hair shows and stuff like that, and have people, they recognize you as Drop Dead Christy.
Yeah, they definitely do. I had red and black hair forever, and it was terrifying to change it, but I wanted to just go all black. I wanted lower maintenance. And so the first hair show I went to would have been Premier Orlando when my hair wasn't red anymore. And it definitely, people were doing double takes because they'd see me, not know me, and then look again and be like, oh, it is you.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely get recognized every now and then as Drop Dead Christy, which is like a really humbling experience.
That's awesome. It's really, really, really awesome. Okay, so tell us about what you're doing these days. So how do you split your time? But let's call it, but how much time on a weekly basis behind the chair with clients? And is it all extensions or mostly extensions? And then your education efforts, like how much time are you spending on that?
So we are still a brand new company. We dove headfirst in 2020. We made a formal launch the end of 2022, but we feel like we kind of just relaunched back in February of this year. We changed our colors and everything. So we're still a very brand new young company, just me, my husband, and his twin. So I am behind the chair 4 days a week still. Tuesday through Friday, I'm at the salon. We have 2 locations, so I split my time between the 2 locations. But I still work a full schedule. I'm doing extensions every day, but I also still do haircut only clients, root retouches, my OGs that have been with me forever. I like to only take new extension clients, but I still do everything. I think it's important as a salon owner to kind of have your hands in everything that your team is going through. And then on the weekends, we educate. So we like to do classes typically at least once a month. Sometimes it's every 2 weeks. So we fly out Saturday to wherever we're educating and fly home Monday night so I can be back behind the chair Tuesday. And then we're doing the extension company on top of that in the hours that I'm not behind the chair or educating. I'm working on that.
Right. And so is your dynamic duo husband and twin,
Yes.
do you feel like you're married to both of them? I just have to
No.
like,
No.
I
No.
mean, it's so nice to have 2 husbands and all the things that they do for you. That's just great.
It's great that we are a good team and we have our group chat, and I feel lucky that I'm very close with his twin because not every family works like that.
Right.
But no, I wouldn't say I feel like I'm married to both, but I feel like he's definitely a brother to me, which is cool since he's technically an in-law. But
And is he married, the twin?
he has a girlfriend, a longtime girlfriend.
Okay.
Yeah.
Get along with her?
Yeah,
She
she's
might
great.
not listen to the podcast, so you can talk shit if you want.
No, she's great. She's great.
So do you do the social media or does your hubby do it?
My husband does the social media. He is full-time Drop Dead. He quit his 9 to 5 only a few months ago to focus on the extension side of our business.
Wow, very exciting.
Yeah. So he runs the
Nerve-wracking and
extension
exciting.
Instagram. Yeah, for real.
Yeah, it's a lot of work. So, and is he doing that out of your studios or at home?
No, we have a home office and a home warehouse and then a storage unit. So we're still very much that small startup feeling business. It's really
Yeah.
just the 3 of us. We get our hair in and we actually package all of our orders, which is different from most of the big companies. It comes to them pre-packed and they ship it off and they don't inspect it. But to us, it's important that we have the quality control, that we're inspecting every single bundle before it gets shipped out. And so he does that at home every single day, and I do it on the days that I'm able to help.
Okay, so let's talk about creating a personal brand. I'm thinking some of the listeners, personal brand, of course, it became much more important when Instagram lit up and people realized that, if they're a good beauty professional behind the chair, they don't really have to be under a big banner, like Vidal Sassoon or whatever.
Right.
And they can create their own brand and do it exactly the way that they want to do it. So here we are, we're about 10 or so years, 10 to 12 years after Instagram kind of first started. And personal brand is still very important, if not possibly more important than it was you know, 8 to 10 years ago.
Right.
But there's a lot of people who don't feel comfortable trying to imagine what their personal brand would be. So, what advice do you have for those who are not sure how to begin or what to choose when thinking of how to brand themselves?
I think the biggest thing with branding is staying true to exactly who you are, which might change over time like it did for me. I changed my Instagram handle to Drop Dead Kristi. It used to be Kristi Day Beauty, and that didn't feel true to me anymore. So I think just staying true to yourself, as corny as that might sound, but we're all individual for a reason, and our clients come to us for a reason. The brands that work with us choose to work with us specifically for a reason. And so you're not going to get ahead by doing what you see other people doing. You have to do what feels right for you and true to you.
You know what's so funny about that? And of course, we always talk about be true to yourself and all the elements of that. But I think the reality of a lot of people, kind of like you were describing when you were younger, is that it's changing a lot. And I'm not really sure everybody feels 100% comfortable with who they happen to be in the moment. They see
Yeah.
something over there and they're like, oh, I love that. And does the fact that I love that mean that that's more of who I actually am? Or is it who I am in the moment? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
How do,
I think,
how do you,
yeah, go ahead. I think
how do
aesthetics
you,
wise, we change. I think aesthetics wise, we change a lot. Like I said, I've changed a lot in the last 10 years. My look has changed. Everything about me has changed except for who I am to my core. Like the things that I value, the things that I believe in, the things that I feel strongly about don't change. And so if you kind of focus on that, the aesthetics around it can kind of ebb and flow with you.
yeah, I think that's right. There's a little bit of a discovery process when it comes to the aesthetics, isn't there? I mean,
Yes.
sometimes I'm going to make up an example. Like I think a certain hat looks cool, but I put it on and I think I look stupid. So it's
Mm-hmm.
like, is that really representative of who I am as what I like? But
Mm-hmm.
I also recognize that it kind of can't be who I am because I put on the hat and I look stupid. So I don't really want to look stupid. You know,
Right, right,
there's kind of a discovery process of kind of reconciling what you really like and what you feel comfortable with what looks good on you,
right,
right? Like we all have different shapes and sizes and hair color and skin color and everything, and like what looks good on us. Um, what we like sometimes maybe not be, it may not be what looks good on us. So it's kind of reconciling that, what we like and what looks good on us. And then if you can match those things together, then it seems like you could really lean into it and, have pictures taken and throw it out on social media and have that kind of consistent, look, especially
right,
if it has some uniqueness to it. Because that's the
right.
other thing. Like a lot of people, they want to brand themselves, but they want to be unique. I'm using air quotes, but maybe what they like isn't really that unique.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes the branding maybe a little bit less effective for them because they're not really setting themselves apart. You
Mm-hmm.
know, they kind of look
Mm-hmm.
a little bit like this group of people over here. So I think people, people should, I mean, my advice would be that people try various things
Yeah,
and just trying to kind of combine the whole, like, what do they like with, what kind of looks good on them and
yeah.
what has some element of uniqueness.
Yeah, our salon has a team of almost 30 people, and I feel like individually you can go, yeah, you look like you'd work at Drop Dead, or your branding or something about you makes it look like you should work at Drop Dead Hair Studio. But there are also 30 very individual people with an individual clientele and individual branding and kind of niches. And so there's a way to still fit with the crowd that you are kind of drawn to, but have that individuality to you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I totally agree. So do you have anything that you wish you didn't do in your career? Your short and successful career?
Honestly, no. Like there's things that with maybe the knowledge that I have now, I would have handled differently, but I wouldn't have that knowledge now if I didn't go through it back then, right? So every single tiny step of the way has gotten me to where I am, and I wouldn't be here if it weren't for all of those sometimes missteps. So no, there really isn't anything I would do differently.
If you could go back to your 16-year-old self, what would
Yes.
you tell her?
Oh gosh. Um, I'd first give her a big hug, tell her that it's gonna be okay one day. Um, and then I would tell her that she can do it and she needs to just try. I talked myself out of a lot of things when I was younger. I wanted to go to beauty school in high school for a second. I had an idea and then decided I wasn't going to be very good at it and that it wasn't right for me. So I ended up not going. There was a salon that I wanted to apply to when I was in beauty school, but decided that there was no reason that they would ever hire me. Um, and now I'm friends with the J. Wesley Olson, I'm sure you know.
Mm-hmm.
His
Yep.
salon back in the day, I was like, that's where I want to work. And I was so scared of even attempting to apply there that I never did. And now we
You
just
didn't
went to
think you
dinner
were
two
good
nights
enough.
ago. No, I did not think I was good enough. So just kind of telling my younger self that she is worth something and she does have special things to bring to the table.
Right. And so, have you thought about having kids? Do you want kids at a certain point in your life?
I definitely do. It's strange because there was a time in my life where I was like, I'd be perfectly content if we don't. And now my husband's 5 years older than me. So the older we get, the more we're kind of settling into that idea that I could see us having kids in the next few years for sure.
And what do you think let's say you have a daughter
hmm
and she's growing up, what do you think you're gonna tell her as she's growing up and she maybe has some of those insecurities?
I mean, that was part of why I didn't want to have kids because I knew how much I struggled and I just couldn't bear the thought of my child struggling like that. But I think that I've put in the work to help her through it, to be a good like resource for her to go to if she is feeling any type of way, but also just always telling her how worthwhile she is and how important she is and how much she matters and complimenting her on her brain and her skills and things outside of just her physical looks.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And teaching her the gratitude trick.
Yes, exactly. Always.
What's the most difficult conversation you've ever had with a client in the chair?
Oh man. I think that there's two avenues on difficult conversations that we have with clients. So one is how invested in their lives we are. Like we become so close to them and care about them so much. So when they tell us the hard things they're going through, or one of my clients is only 26 years old and has breast cancer. So
Oh,
she came and told me that, and we had to take out her extensions so she could have her surgeries and not worry about that. That's hard. I don't know, you feel so hard for your clients and kind of experience their life with them. But the other side is, especially as a salon owner, is dealing with the problem clients, and I get to be the one to step in and show people where the door is when it's time for them to go. So that's never fun and never easy. And sometimes I wish I could tell somebody else to do it, but that's the role we take on as the owner.
no doubt about it. Um, if you could wave a wand and change anything about the industry at all right now, what would it be?
hmm I feel like the industry is a beautiful place. It's the best place to be. Every time somebody tells me they're getting their license or anything, I'm like, welcome to the greatest career, the greatest industry on the planet. But there's also a lot of toxicity to it. We all scream collaboration over competition, but I feel like not a ton of people truly view that and value that, especially in the extension world of things. It's pretty toxic in that side. And so just creating actual supportive environments and building each other up.
That's interesting. You said that on the extension side of things that there's toxicity.
hmm
Why do you think that is?
everyone wants to say that they have the best thing and that what they do is best, what they created is best, what they work so hard for is best, which is understandable because they do work so hard for it. And a lot of people, did create things that paved the way for others. That maybe it's hard to pass the baton sometimes, or it's hard to see that what works for you might not work for somebody else, and that there doesn't need to be the competition behind it all.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, that's really interesting. Do you have any hair horror stories? I mean, this is very appropriate because you've got the macabre thing going with the drop dead.
Yes.
This is a hair horror story.
Yes.
So you must have many.
I have a lot. The first one that came to mind was my very first time educating. I was doing independent education back in, gosh, this was probably 2018, I would guess. My friend Hannah Disconnected, had come from San Diego to teach with me here. And I was prepping a model for us. And I used a lightener that I had never used before, but heard great things about. And didn't know all of the ins and outs of it. And so in my foils, it swelled up a lot and went over that line of demarcation to her previous level 10, and it fried all of that off. So her whole back of her head, I completely fried off. And luckily there was a Cosmoprof next door that sold, I couldn't even tell you, some brand of tape-in extensions. And I right then and there went running next door, bought some tape-ins, brought them back, gave them to the client for free, and kind of nursed her hair back to health after that, so that we had something to do in the class. If anybody's listening to this and they were in that class, that's why she had tape-ins in, was not the plan. It's not the plan at all, but I had to improvise and move forward.
So it became an extensions class. It wasn't supposed to be.
No. No.
That's really funny. Any last words for the community?
My biggest thing is that I'm cheering all of you on, and I'm an open book, and I'm happy to help you, whether it's personally or with extension questions or anything. Just always shoot me a DM, and I'm here to help. Yeah.
Kristi Day is Drop Dead Kristi with an I at the end. Shoot her a DM. She's the one who invited you to shoot her a DM. That means you have to respond, though. You can't invite and not respond. So there you go. You have to respond. And where else should people? That's probably it. You've got all the links there, don't you?
Yeah,
Drop
all the
Dead
links are in my bio.
Yep. Drop Dead Education. Everything.
Yep. You type Drop Dead in and you'll find us. We'll also be at premier hair shows next year. As well as our own Dropped Education live events all across the country. Very good. You're very busy. Yes. And I love your story, and I'm so happy about your, use of gratitude. And I'm gonna get better at that because of this conversation. So I appreciate that, and the listeners appreciate it very much, Kristi. And it was great talking to you. Yeah, great to talk to you.